Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're actually making two characters, Clawdeen and Draculaura, a vampire and a werewolf from Monster High.
So you're making Twilight dolls?
No, I said Monster High.
But you said vampire and werewolf, so that's Twilight.
No, Edward, go away.
Aww.
Anyway, with that over with, let's get into the dolls. So I actually had a couple ideas for this. I took inspiration from Hexton's video of Draculaura, and I also took inspiration from the new G3 show. Her design is very Lolita. We have lots of ruffles and lace and cutesy, but I really liked how in the new show she had that hat, and none of her dolls have that hat. The hat with the spider webs and the witch. Oh, it's so cute. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I knew I had to incorporate that. But I don't like these. I used a G2 Draculaura head and I started with the body sculpting. I wanted her to have a curvier figure because her new G3 doll has that and I really like it. I used a G2 Draculaura head and I sculpted the ears to be bigger. I also gave her a widow's peak by painting her hairline black. Starting on the face up, I started sketching some guidelines in red and pink. I also am giving her some face freckles and details with a white pencil. I'm blushing her giant adorable elf ears and all around her nose and cheeks. She may be a vampire, but she's going to have very rosy cheeks and ears, and she's going to look like she's been out in the cold for a while. I may have been watching too much Jackie O. And I darken her eye lines, lash lines with brown. If you paint a head with acrylic paint to change the skin tone, you can actually apply the pencils very easily without any sealant whatsoever, especially if you wet down the pencils, which is what I'm doing here. Of course, all off camera. I'm really sorry about that. Can't even see what I'm doing. Got to include the waterline with some pink pencil, and currently she just looks very high. I used a G2 head because I wanted her to have a sweeter expression and be more childlike. I wanted her to have a really sweet expression. Bringing in highlights with the white colored pencil, and then adding color to her lips with pastels. Trying to make her eyes more purple with the pastels, and just trying to brute force everything with the pastels. This face up, I was scared of. It was going so badly. It gets better, I promise. I hope. At this point, I'm just darkening the darks and lightening the lights and hoping that she just ends up not looking possessed. But seriously, she looked like she slathered sunscreen on her nose and has a milk mustache. Adding lip lines. Then I darken the corners of her mouth to give her even more of a smile. The eyes had been staring into my soul for too long. I'm fixing them finally. Brightening up the sclera definitely helps. Then I give her her iconic cute little fangs. And I finally throw in the towel and just give up on colored pencils entirely and just do her eyes with acrylic paint. At least I had purple acrylics. Mixed purple with white to get the highlight colors. Then using the end of the paintbrush, I added her pupils. I then used this micron pen to give her very, very long lower lashes, which is a style that I decided that I will adopt and I really like it. The micron pen gives you very vivid lines, is easy to control, and you can wipe it off with water. And then gave her very, very fluffy upper lashes. She may be innocent and childlike, but she can rock a full glam of eyelashes. I then add the final catch lights, hearts of course, and then we move on to the hair. I really liked Insanely Creating's doll, so I decided to follow the same idea as her by doing a round of light pink wefts all around the crown of the head. But I didn't want to do a half and half split, so I decided to do streaks like the original doll, with V-cut vampire bangs and very cute tiny little pigtails. I used hot glue without any wefts because those take too much time and hot glue works fast. I found this pair of Ever After High shoes. They're Darling Charmings from a Tea Party set. They're actually very good shoes, and because of the little umbrellas at the bottom, I thought it would be perfect for Draculaura. I painted them pink, and I was just going to go pink and gray because originally I didn't want any black in her color scheme besides her hair. But at the end it wasn't enough contrast, so I did change the gray parts for black. I even painted the little stud silver using the same nail polish I used with Frankie. And I made it out of craft foam, and it went well. The pattern was simple. I just took a rectangle, then I took a circle, and then a smaller circle. Just lots of finessing and finagling. I didn't work with a pattern at all. I just decided, let's go for it. I hot glued the cylinder directly to a flat scrap of fabric, that way it would be an exact match and I wouldn't have any hanging over edges. It was very smart of me. After it was cool, I just cut it off. You can also see at this point I have blushed Draculaura's body and put her hair into two pigtails. I thought I filmed that. I didn't. Oh well. Like I said, lots of finessing. I decided the hat was too tall, fixed it. I was just going to cut out her hat with a normal size of masking tape, but then I was like, oh, that'd be too small, so I decided to grab something even bigger, a giant can of Purolite. I decided that that size was to my satisfaction, and then I cut the hat out. I cut out the bottom of the hat to make it flush, and then I just hot glued it on. Slip, slap, slap. But that's only the base construction. I then added some spiderweb lines with the hot glue to make it look more exaggerated. Then I painted it black, but I mixed pink in with the black to cover the hot glue lines so that they would pop even more. I think it ended up very well. Now starting on Clawdeen, I decided I wanted a monster high body as a base because I want them to all have diverse body types, because that's something I really like about the new dolls. But wait, I hear you say, you already gave Frankie a monster high body. Well, I did lengthen one leg on that, but you're right. I'm going to make Clawdeen curvier, but not in the way I made Draculaura curvier. She's going to be more like a Kim Kardashian model. I just followed Delightful's video on Zura on how she made her, and I followed along with that to make Clawdeen. As you can see, there's already epoxy on her back. This Clawdeen doll was originally a ladybug fairy that I ended up not finishing and not liking. Now she is going to be a Clawdeen. Very original. This isn't a very good tutorial. Please just check out Delightful's Zura video, but I start by widening the hip joints so the articulation is still there when I add bulk. I actually work on multiple dolls at the same time. You can see Frankie's feet there right in the background. I was working on all three of these dolls at the same time. I decided I didn't care about the molded on underwear since I was probably just going to sculpt right over it. I started by giving her a boob job. The three most important tools when you're using epoxy sculpt is water, your fingers, and a toothpick. I had never sculpted a pair of boobs before, so this was honestly just guesswork. They turned out alright in the end. Not as good as some other doll artists, but I'm improving. You can tell what they're supposed to be in the end, therefore it's a win. I did redo them many times though. I just wasn't happy with them. I eventually got them decent, but I will say that sculpting is not my forte. Neither is sewing. Basically, I'm just good at the hair and the faces. Switching over to the hips, we're going for that Kim Kardashian butt, just a big, very large butt. Taking Hourglass to the extreme, almost Jessica Rabbit. You may be thinking, oh my gosh, they're just teenagers. Teenagers have lots of body shapes. Told you I'd be covering the underwear. This sculpting was honestly a lot of back and forth and changing my mind. It worked out in the end. Sometimes it's a little bit pointy and triangular, but it works for my purposes. They got covered up with clothes. I didn't feel like doing any sanding, so all of this is just smoothing it out with water and hoping for the best. The paint covers it up pretty well. I don't want the socket to look too big, so I'm adding material onto the top of the hips to make it look more natural. After it's all cured, I whip out the paint. I didn't have an exact color match, and I didn't feel like trying to color match, so I made her skin a lot darker, which made the face up a nightmare. The color I used is called Burnt Umber, if you can find it. It's a very beautiful golden brownish. I like using it a lot for leathers and stuff. It only took me about 2 coats to get it opaque. I blasted it with a hairdryer in between to make the coats dry faster. I always really like it when Clawdeen has a very bright lime green in her color scheme, so I took this old swimsuit that did belong to a Clawdeen, and I just chopped off the bottom part to make it a tube top shirt. Surprisingly, it still fit with the body modifications. I just took the top portion and put it on her, and then hemmed the edges and cleaned it up a bit. It's a little hard to get on, but it fits in the end. One scrapped idea was to give her a tail, but I decided I didn't like that, and it was too much work, so I didn't. This is the real reason why Clawdeen doesn't have her own video. I decided that I wanted to reroot her with super curly hair, with it being my first time rerooting with saran hair. It was a nightmare to work with. I got severely demotivated and I didn't even fill up all of her head. I can't style the hair at all. It's constantly falling out and getting slightly less curly. It's a nightmare. It looks all right, but I got so demotivated I didn't want to film anything anymore. On the other hand, though, she does have extremely curly hair and it's very beautiful, so trade-off, was it worth it? I don't know. I was just checking the tone against the two skin tones to see if it looked all right, and it did. I then proceeded, not knowing the nightmare that was in store for me. My fingers also cramped really bad because I used a needle that did not have a handle whatsoever. I fixed that now. I put it on an X-Acto blade. But I didn't learn that. I just figured it out, and it was torturous. I skipped to where I had filled in the hairline, and at this point the fiber was so voluminous and poofy, I was like, okay, we can't do the entire thing. So I just did the hairline, the part line, and around her ears. The rest is just bald. But you can't tell because there's so much freaking hair. I then masked it off and reattached her head to her body because I know better than to do a face-up without it attached to the body. It will crack, and you will cry. It's just how it goes. First, I just used the tone to match it to her skin tone, the paint, the stuff. I quickly did 2 coats to make it look the same. Then I decided I was going to make Draculaura's hat. And that's where I kind of lost motivation for filming. I kind of just wanted to create without the camera being in the way and without the scheduling, and my camera was full and I had to dump it a lot. So I finished Clawdeen off screen, and now I guess we go on to the photo shoot of all 3 of the dolls.